Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and a butterfly came out.
Welcome to Comedians in Elevators podcast. I've got my guest Fernando Siqueira. Fernando, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Fernando Siqueira. I am a Brazilian actor and filmmaker and musician, and I live in LA. I've been here for 6 years now. You know, doing everything I can to tell my art and share it with as many people as I can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being on the podcast, Fernando. This is a growing project. There's a lot of stuff going on, a long tail. So let's get into it. So basically, we're going to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian.
Yeah.
So how I define it is that a comedian is a funny person telling any jokes versus the comic who's any person telling funny jokes, right? So two sides of the same coin. All right. So first question, the role of persona in comedy. How much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
Um, I believe that it is always some sort of mask, even when
Okay.
even when it's your own face. I think of for me, the persona is a way of filtering pain into rhythm. So it's real, but it's edited. Uh, I don't think authenticity is about just being raw. It's about choosing parts of yourself that you're ready to, how do you say that? Like make a ritual in front of other people. So, um, the role, yeah, I guess yes. So it's always a mask, even when their performance always makes you put some sort of mask on.
So I'm taking down 2.5 notes on what you just said so far, which is already an epic start. So, so I would agree with the outline is that the comic is the one that's more well. Okay, I got to reframe what you're saying. Not reframe, but frame it. Well, reframe it from my perspective. Once we became more public facing, right? Once there was media, we all put on a mask, right? Over 100 years ago when it first started, right? Is
Yes.
that kind of what you're alluding to with that we're all always wearing a mask?
Yeah, like I guess yes, because I feel like a mask, when I say mask, is more of like the sense I'm someone who comes from like I did a lot of commedia dell'arte with literal
Okay.
masks on.
Ah, I see, I
Um
see, I see.
but I believe
That's a
that
great.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, that's a great. That now our 3.5 notes. So commedia dell'arte. So that's very interesting. So was that what format was that done in? Meaning, was it done in a public space amongst amongst audience participants, or was it done on a stage separating the audience from you?
Uh Both. I started doing some, commedia dell'arte here in LA
Okay.
at a theater group called Actors Gang.
Okay.
That's a theater group by the actor, Oscar nominee actor, and winning actor, Tim Robbins. He was my mentor. He is my mentor. And
Very good.
with him and the ensemble that he created, we just performed inside the theater for people who paid to see the shows lots
Mhm.
of times. But also, whenever we had a show, we would go out in public with our masks on and just create some havoc in the streets, and so people get excited and come to see the actual show.
100%. I mean, I've only participated as an audience member one time in a production like that, and I was like, this is awesome. This is definitely this is the way it should be. I think that maybe that'll help revive the LA filmmaking scene. Obviously, the issue is more financial, but there's no need for it to. I'm just thinking outside. Maybe that'll be a punch in the arm to kind of get it kickstarted, right? Because we
Yeah.
don't see it that often. Not well, maybe you do. I don't. Very cool. I have to touch on that point. You said pain into rhythm.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So what I mean is that when you have a persona, when you put on a mask, or when you try to put something on that is not your like, because when you're with friends and stuff, and you're by
Mhm.
yourself, or you're just being yourself and chill, you're someone, right? But when you have to perform, at some point you have to pump up a little bit of your personality, I
Mhm.
guess, because people are watching it and you have to be present. So for you to be present, you have to like make yourself visible somehow. And what I guess I mean is like the persona is a way for you to channel everything that you feel that is confusing that I call pain, but like the thoughts that make you feel not so well or whatever, the pain you feel, and if you put on as a persona, you can transform that into rhythm and make it useful for your art.
So I just want to touch on it a little more. Is how do you do that? How do you transform the pain into rhythm?
Um,
Is there a technical method?
Yeah, I think the best technical method I've learned so far is breathing for sure.
Okay.
I would say when there's a lot of different methods, but for me, I think that breathing is what usually grounds me whenever I am in my persona mode, or like when I'm trying to do performance of some sorts. Like I will always remember to breathe because that's my best advice to anyone who's like um
Yeah, for
trying to
sure.
make the pain and the weirdness and the weird feelings that you can't really explain, and you want to I guess what I'm trying to say is like I know I'm making probably
No,
making it
that might be just as simple as that. Is breathing is the method. If you focus on your breathing, that's how you do it. Simple as that, right? Because breathing is rhythm. There is
it
no more fundamental rhythm than that.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. I could have guessed it, but I wasn't sure. So
No, no,
I guess
I just
this
asked.
is an interesting, obvious but untouched point. I think so. Awesome. Very cool. Okay. So, does authenticity matter, or is the illusion part of the magic?
um I think that authenticity does matter. Um, but again, I think that you being in a performance mode, uh, I th I think it's interesting because when you have to do a performance, I don't think that I think I kind of went over it a little bit in my first answer, but I feel like being authentic not necessarily means that you have to be completely raw, and
Hmm.
be completely yourself. Like I feel like you have to know that you have to know your audience somehow and the place you are at. So it's not. I think it's about like choosing what parts of yourself, what parts of your authentic self you want to show to that sort of people that are watching you. So. Um, I think, yes, I think the illusion is always part of it because at some point you have to choose what parts of yourself you have to put on.
100%. I would agree with that. All right.
Cool.
Next question. Punching up versus punching down. Where do comics versus comedians stand on this?
Um, so I think that punching up is, can you develop a little more what that means? Just so I can try to.
Oh no, definitely. I could, I'm trying to make it tricky to a certain point now. Just so you know, I did ask ChatGPT to write me these questions when I first started the podcast, and this is what it came up with. And from the prompt, I don't remember to what I got. I was pretty on point.
Cool.
But the idea is that really you have to be both a comic and a comedian. A lot of people allude to there's a trajectory where you start as a comic and then you evolve into a comedian, right? So that's where I think a lot of people get stuck is that there's this possible natural tendency. But the idea is that the comic just tells jokes and the comedian somehow is just a funny person. So in that context, punching up, is there a different perspective from a comic or a comedian on punching up versus punching down?
Um, I think that feel like punching up can be more of like storytelling, and punching down, it it acts a little more like ego, I guess. A comic,
Or it looks like it.
yeah, it looks like it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a comic might test limits for like just to get a reaction,
Right. A
while
simple
like
reaction.
yeah, but like a comedian, like someone who's like a real one, like a real funny comedian, uh, it knows where the hit lands, you know? So, uh,
No, it's first. It's a tricky one. There is a couple comedians that definitely dive into the punching down, especially once they have evolved, where they have gotten well, let's say that there is now become a whole story arc to punching down, and so it is a story at that point. But other than that, I can see what you're saying. They're just kind of going for the hit, right?
yeah, yeah.
All
But
right,
yeah,
cool.
I think whether the audience laughs or not, like you can feel the room, you know? So the
Yeah,
silence are they can be heavier than the laughter that you're chasing. Depends on like it depends on what you want, I guess. It's a I don't know, this question is
it's a
interesting.
tricky. It's yeah, of course, it's supposed to make you think. You're like, well, what's really going on here? So, is the audience agreement with the comedian a form of permission or alignment?
Um, I th- can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
So it's the same question, punching up versus punching down. Is the audience agreement with the comedian? So if they agree with the comedian, is it a form of permission or alignment?
Yes, yes, for sure. And that goes again to I feel like what room you're in, like
Mhm.
knowing the room you're in, because um then you get the audience to agree with you and be with you, right? If you know what room you're in, like you know what the people are kind of
For
expecting,
sure.
you know? So I guess
What if
yeah.
you don't? What if you don't know? What do you do? What are you going for? Are you going for permission? Is it okay if I tell this joke, punching up versus punching down, or are you aligning with what you think that they believe already?
I think that's a very interesting question because as a comedian, I guess you have to be ready for whatever reaction. Because as you said, like, what if you don't know who are the people, right? You're only gonna
Right.
know after you tell the joke. And I think it comes back to what we were saying about being present, you know, and knowing that you are in power, so you can try to switch and change up the course of your direction of like what your jokes are, you know?
100%, 100%. Okay, so cultural translation of comedy. How do jokes that work in one country or region or city bomb in another?
Hmm, that's a good one. I feel like, you know, uh, comedy is one of the most fragile things to translate. I'm from Brazil and I've
Mhm.
performed in many different countries and I've done things that like bombed back home and didn't work at all, and then here they worked well, and it's interesting. I feel like it's a hard thing to translate, you know.
Is it a translation that's happening? You think there's some kind of linguistic paradigm, or is it just in the culture and it's just not, not in that culture, but in another one?
I think there is a cultural thing for sure. I think in my case, I'm taking from my own experience where I speak English and Portuguese, so I actually translated the whole show that I was doing.
Okay.
So, um, and that was interesting because not only because of the cultural differences that are huge, but also like uh, the actual way you tell jokes or the actual way you try to engage with the audience, right?
Yeah.
Um, but no, I think it's definitely a culture thing as well because like different countries have so many different like ways of like thinking things are funny or not, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. 100%. So you were in Brazil, right?
Yes,
Is there stand up in Brazil?
there is. Yes, for sure.
Okay. The only reason why I ask is that I know there's a lot of maybe some from top down suppression of freedom of information and free speech. So I was thinking that may have something to do with, where that cultural translation occurs.
Um, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing that you brought up. I feel like Brazil has become a country that, I mean, it's not known to have as much freedom of speech as the US, but being from Brazil, I feel like Brazil is a pretty liberal country in many ways. Besides from obviously there's a lot of uh, things there that are complicated politically, but it's arts in Brazil is something that we have access to. Like we have a lot of films being made and a lot of funny people and a lot of comedians. Like I've seen many funny like shows, like stand-up shows in Brazil,
Hmm.
but also like just the comedies that Brazilian people make, like film comedies, are great. So it's interesting that you brought that up. I feel
Well,
like,
they're avoiding the political completely, I assume.
oh, not really though. It's
Oh, okay.
Brazil is interesting because it is a country that really, really, well, it's a huge country, first of all. I feel like a lot of
Hmm.
people don't really realize that, but like if you look at the map, Brazil is
Yeah,
almost as big as the US.
yeah,
Besides, we should take out obviously Alaska and Hawaii, but besides from that, Brazil is a huge piece of land. It's like
yeah.
the Portuguese speaking part of South America, and it's huge. So, and we take a lot out of the US. So, like, we learn a lot from the US. Uh,
Hmm.
so I feel like that's, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was
Maybe
going.
that's it. Maybe you get all your political controversy, imported, so you don't have to export it.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. I feel like
Yeah.
whatever happens in the US kind of happens in Brazil as well. So it's a weird, like, symbiotic.
You get to see all of the political commentary, but right, incoming. Like you get, and that probably, I'm sure the higher powers from in Brazil believe that that's actually good that you get to see that. I'm just thinking, I don't know. I don't think it matters, but
Yeah.
that's my perspective, right? So, all right. So are comics, are they more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
Hmm. I think that comics rely on rhythm, and comedians rely on the context.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, so I think that the comedian might fail harder abroad because, but they will leave something in that country that will linger for longer. Because I think that the comics, it's going to be funny then and there.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Comedian might make it something that people think about for longer, you know?
Got it. So no, I'm with you. So you're answering one of the last questions already. So I'm
Oh,
gonna have to. No, that's good. That's you definitely look at it from that perspective. So that's interesting. Well, let's go to the next one. So crowd work versus crafted work. So if comics riff and comedians perform, where is the sweet spot?
well, I feel like crowd work is like jazz, you know? It's
Okay.
it's it's very and crafted work is more like a symphony. So like what I mean, I guess it's like because jazz, you know, it's
Improvised.
improvised, yes, but it sounds like it was as if it's not, but it is improvised. And then crafted work is more like a symphony, something that people practice to make sure it sounds the same every time they perform. Um,
You were gonna say the jazz doesn't sound improvised?
I mean, it does sound improvised, but it sounds like a whole, you know? It doesn't
Right.
sound
It's
like,
done well.
yeah, it doesn't sound like they haven't rehearsed. Because I mean, they probably
Oh yeah.
rehearsed playing jazz with each other, but it's not like gonna sound the same every time if you go to different jazz shows, unless it's like a jazz set from a band. But you know what I mean? It's
Well,
like,
I'm taking notes. I mean, you're definitely, I'm going to have to rephrase that question. So I agree with you 100%. I definitely see it as the comic is doing more of a, well, is that what you're saying? The comic is doing jazz and the comedian's doing a symphony?
I think so, yes, because I feel
Okay.
like crowd work is more like jazz. Sorry.
So with the musical mode here, where is there a musical sweet spot between a symphony and jazz?
Uh, yes, because
Okay.
I think that
Is there an example? Like, is there music that I mean we would know of or a artist? Because I'm trying to figure out. if I've heard that before.
there's like a good mix of both. Uh,
Yeah, is this something I'm missing in life? Like I'm just trying to put the jazz and symphony into
to-
one somehow. Like
yeah,
is that
I
some kind of experimental art?
well, it's hard. I think I don't know how to say I don't know how to answer to that in the sense of the music, but in the sense of the jokes and crowd work, I think I have more of an explanation. Which
That's amazing. Please, let's hear it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think it's like you can mix both. Like you can have
Yeah,
like a rehearsed set, but then when you get to interact with people and some things are not landing, you have to be able to switch to a
yeah,
jazz situation where you do some crowd work to get the people to connect to you so that you can go back to your script, if that makes any sense.
100%. Yeah. So the symphony is the script, and the jazz improv. I mean, we're not no surprise there.
Yeah,
Um, no, I think you hit it right on the head. Where's the sweet spot is to be able to bounce between the two. But I definitely want to find out what this music is that doesn't exist. We can't figure it out. Symphony jazz.
we shall
It's a new
make it.
genre. It is a genre. It's a new genre. Symphony jazz. Haven't you heard the new genre, symphony jazz?
Have you heard about it? You should have heard about it.
I'm pretty sure AI will make it, and they'll be like, oh, that's how you do
Uh,
that. Right? Like that's the way to construct it. I'm going to be doing that in an hour or so. Okay, so what happens when a comic leans too much into crowd work or a comedian gets heckled?
oh, I think that if you do too much of one, you can lose the tension uh, in the room. Like a good
Hmm.
comedian can hold the space when it gets heckled, but not because they dominate or anything, but I feel like it's because they don't abandon the moment. So
Yep.
you have to remain human. You have to remain a person breathing while you're performing, you know? So that's what I guess I mean, what I was trying to say before when you were asking about like, is there a mix of like a symphony and a jazz? Because it has to be this way. Because even if you do have a set that is timed and you're being filmed and stuff, you have to be
Hmm.
human and able to react and work the crowd and make sure everyone is with you.
100%. I mean, I'm just trying to think of something as epic to respond to that, but yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, next question. Advertising and self-promotion.
Okay.
Who advertises themselves more, a comic or a comedian? You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast and get the message out today. See you soon.
Mm, good question. I think the comic sells the joke, I guess.
Okay.
The comedian sells the world view. So, yeah.
100%. No, I go with you on that. Okay. So if you're advertising that, so you're saying, I mean, it's almost a good way to advertise if you're conscious of it. If you have a comic who's literally selling, what do you sell? Jokes. You sell jokes. Yeah, that's what I do online is I sell jokes. Like that could be literally be your posting, right? Is you selling jokes.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's going to work, but maybe that's a way to we'll see that comic selling jokes. All right. So is it, do you see self promotion as selling out or is it necessary for survival?
Oh, uh, look, this is a weird, interesting question because I feel like promotion becomes some sort of your identity nowadays.
Yeah.
And
How you do it?
yeah, it gits very confusing. I think that I used to think that self-promotion was a fake thing that
Well, it can be if you
yeah.
literally have other accounts promoting your main account.
Yes.
There's literal fake, so
Yeah. But
aside from that,
I like how you said like survival because I feel like it is survival with a filter on. Because the trick is you got to promote the truth, uh, not the costume. That's the hard thing, I think, about self-promotion because nowadays with social media and all that, I feel like the way for you to get people to actually engage with you is by being truthful. And
Yeah.
a lot of the times I see all the time on Instagram people um, trying to sell like I don't know musicians or like comedians trying to sell their costume and not themselves as artists. And I feel like in self-promotion, there's a lot of it's very hard for people to engage with you on social media if it's not truthful.
Oh, so I'm with you 100%. So, so you're saying that the comedian is selling the persona, right? The costume.
Mm.
Would you say that's also true, or am I wrong? Would you say it's also true for the comic, or because I'm pretty sure nobody's selling the jokes,
Yeah,
unless I'm wrong, right? Maybe that to be consciously doing that would actually benefit everybody. Is like, oh, I know what he's doing. He's selling the jokes
he's selling the
online.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's the comic. That's not the comedian selling the jokes. That for sure is the comic, right? Because the jokes are external to them if you're trying to sell the joke,
mhm.
right? But the comedian, which you're alluding to, is the one that's the persona that they're
Yeah,
trying to sell. And the persona is the mask,
yes.
right? Which therefore is not authentic.
Well, yes, I feel like it could be not authentic, and that's the issue. You have to realize that when you're on social media, you cannot, well, if you're just yourself, that's going to be boring and people are not going to be interested in it. So you do have to have some sort of persona, but that persona has to be yourself. You know what I mean? It's not like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not necessarily yourself, but it has to be a part of yourself that you're making it big and huge. Like there's a lot of Instagram comedians, Brazilian comedians that are like hilarious and they are obviously doing weird things, but you see through the videos that that person is a funny person by itself, you know, like it's not like they're uh totally putting on a persona and pretending, you know,
Right.
it's not a matter of pretending, it's a matter of being yourself, but like large, like the largest version of yourself, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what I
No,
see.
100%, in the textbook, it's about agenda. Like you're trying to convince the audience about something impossible that you're basically the opposite of. Like I'm kind of convince you that I'm a giraffe because I'm a giraffe. There's no like, how do you not see that? Like it's obvious.
Right.
And you base everything around that, right? So that's one of the techniques. Oh, awesome. All right. So censorship and offense. Does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point?
Uh, so I think that offense is lazy if it doesn't um, risk something personal, you know? And I think that a comedian might avoid it. No, a comic might avoid it, and a comedian might court it. Um, but
But it's
but
not valuable.
I think it could be, but it depends on who's bleeding. That's the question, you know?
Oh,
I think that
okay.
uh, I think
So
that
does it necessary that it has to be the individual telling the joke to bleed as well?
I think so. I think it's a matter of like you have to tell a joke if you want to do some sort of offensive joke. I think it's going to be a lazy, uh, stupid joke unless you're making it about something personal about yourself, because then
Right.
people laugh with you and not laugh at someone else, you know?
Oh,
So
100%. 100%. That's why it's offense, right? So
yes, exactly.
so should it even be censored is the question. Um,
Uh, Censorship is such a hard, tough word, I think.
yeah.
I think it should be avoided for sure. Like, I think never in your life you should be making jokes or something that is offensive towards someone else, because it can be like it's hard because we are all inside our own bubbles, like inside our
Mhm.
own brains, you know. But it's hard to know how that other person might react to it, or like it's you don't know how much your words have actual effect on someone else's life. Like sometimes people might think that, oh, it's just a joke. I was just joking, you know. But then I think that censorship is very hard. I feel like people should be able to censor themselves and know within themselves like what is right and what is wrong, you know. Uh, but I know that this is like my perfect world thinking view
Hmm.
because I know a lot of people don't really care about anyone else. And that's when censorship comes in and tries to make sure that nobody is extrapolating their feelings in some way. But I don't know. I just feel like the word censorship brings me like I don't know, makes me think of like not so good stuff because I feel like people should be able to have free will. But I just wish there was a world where everyone had free will, but also decided not to,
Hurt
make
other people.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that world is coming. That world is coming. I think we'll be seeing that very very shortly. So who survives better in a cancel culture environment?
Oh, culture. Um,
Are
culture.
you all right? You're starting to feel the stress on the
Yeah,
shoulder
just
area
like oh
there.
no, it was just some itch. It's good.
Oh, okay.
I'm just like oh, it's so much pain. No, it's
You
but
got a
yeah,
rhythm to it. I was like, that's the style.
I feel like cancel culture doesn't really scare me. I feel like what scares me is the disconnection that comes with it. Uh,
Yeah,
like if
yeah.
you're not willing to lose something in the telling, maybe don't tell it, you know?
Right. So you almost need to court. You need to court it. You need to court offense. You need to court the ability to be canceled. Otherwise, you're not taking risk. Right.
Yeah, you have to be. I mean, culture is such a. I feel like,
It
my
seems
generation.
I can see it looks alien to you. You're like, what are you even talking about? But
Oh no,
it was a thing, right? Very
yeah,
shortly ago.
I get what it is. I feel like, it's something that Gen Z, the generation I'm part of, it's just like we made this whole like thing of like canceling people on the internet, which I think it's such a bad way to teach people stuff if they make a mistake, because
Yeah.
you get there, they don't have the any rights to like try and fix whatever they did. Obviously, like
Yeah.
we're not talking if we're talking about someone who did like something actually evil, then this is something else. This person should be in court and probably arrested and all that stuff. But like um the internet it's a place where everyone can comment whatever they want. And if you just like cancel someone for something that you don't even know exactly what happened because I see that happen all the time, some people just get canceled for something that they didn't even have the chance to like defend themselves and then it comes out to be a lie after like someone was lying just to try to get something out of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right what you said. I feel like if you're not willing to lose something in the telling, just don't tell it, you have to kind of be okay with the fact that you might be canceled to be honest.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. Okay. Timing and delivery. Is it a science or an art? So do comics rely more on structure and comedians more on pain into rhythm and emotion?
Hmm. Hmm.
I've added to that question.
Yeah, I think it's both,
Yeah.
because rhythm is definitely math. But the pause between the pause before the line, I think that's the soul of comedy, like the moments where you know where to pause before the joke lands.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So I
So
think
it's
that
really both. You're saying that there's really no, it's kind of that, it's architecture. It's where science and art intersect.
exactly. I think it is. I think it is both. I think because there's the rhythm, the math, the science of it all, but also
Mhm.
there's the art of it that you have to have it in your soul, the understanding of how much time to wait before saying the line so that it lands perfectly.
I'm thinking, how do you measure that? To just to add it, I would imagine pain would be your answer. You're like just the moment just before it's about to hurt. And that's the moment when you hit the punchline.
Yeah.
Just an idea. I don't know if it's true. I'm just throwing it out
No, but I get what you're saying. I think it's something about also like practice.
there. Of
So,
course, yeah.
to be honest, I feel like the more you do it, the more you understand people's reactions. Uh
Now you would say, would you agree that the practice is science?
oh yes, for sure.
All right.
It is. It is definitely science because you get to learn and practice. And I say that to every type of art that I do. If it's acting, if it's comedy, if it's music, like everything, like I feel like rehearsal and practice is the key for everything.
100%. All right, we're not going to get through all the questions, but one more question. So, laughter versus applause. Are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing standing applause breaks that validate the message?
Mm. Uh, laughs are a reflex, right? And uh, they come out when you think
They
something
should be.
funny.
Yeah.
And I think the applause is more of an agreement of like, oh yes, this is really good, you know?
Yeah.
So, um, and then I feel like comics they chase the laugh because that's the only confirmation they have that they're still safe, you know? Um, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Well, no, I agree with you. I mean, but you can have fake laughs and fake applause as well, right? So you
Oh
can get
yeah.
false feedback. The question, you know, you pretty much know fake laughter, but can you catch fake applause?
Yeah, I
That's a
think
harder one though.
it's something about the timing of it too. Because I've
Uh-huh.
seen before, like when people go to like a theater or something, and then there's a scene that they actually love, and then people are like clapping for a while. But then like I go to a show where I see that people are just kind of clapping because they're kind of awkward to be there, and then they're just like
Yeah.
just kind of dies off like fast, you know. I think that's the
Mhm.
best way to see if the applause is real or not. And also real applause, like real people like wanna, applaud someone is it's not even long, not only just longer, but it's also like you can see on people's faces. People are going to be smiling while clapping. People are going to be talking and chatting and like, "Oh my God, that was awesome," or like even screaming like, "Woo!" You know? Like
Mhm.
there's ways for you to understand like what is the vibe from the applause, but it's hard. I know you're right though. Like sometimes it can be fake. I don't know.
100%. Well, Fernando, thank you for being my guest. Is there anywhere you like everyone to find you online?
Oh yes, sure. I'm on Instagram and also on TikTok at Fernando O Siqueira A. That's Siqueira. Even though it sounds like cicada, the bug.
There's no D in cicada now.
No D, it's an R. But yeah, you can find me there. I also have Fernando's band. That's my band. That you guys can follow on Instagram. Yeah, and I'm everywhere. You can Google me and find me. Cool. And thank you so
Awesome,
much,
awesome.
Ian. That was awesome. It was very fun to talk to you, and I like your outfit, by the way. I think this is a
Right,
very cool outfit.
this is the costume, right? So
Yeah,
we're gonna get into that more. Definitely set up for round two so we can continue. And I've already taken multiple notes. So for
awesome.
everyone watching, please like and subscribe so you can catch the next edition. And we will see you in the next one.